Pathmic is the intelligent tool for website lead generation. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in their buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmic qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50%. Add Pathmic to your website in seconds. Let the AI do all the work and get access to 50% more qualified leads while you keep doing marketing and sales as usual. Check us on pathmic.com. Welcome to today's episode. Let's talk about today's guest. We have from Karma Wallet co-founder Kedar. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being on with us today. And well, Kedar, I'm sure our listeners are tuning in, wondering what Karma Wallet is all about. So in your own words, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah. Karma Wallet is fundamentally a new kind of financial company that puts the consumer, the human, at the center of the financial system as opposed to at the bottom. So what that means is we enable you as an individual to make sure that you're supporting the brands and the companies that align with your personal values, and then we give you incentives and rewards for doing that.
Definitely great. Okay. So then that way, then our listeners could get a good understanding there of Karma Wallet. What would you say then is the key problem that you guys like to solve for clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have sort of three different stakeholders, if you will. There's the consumer or the individual, there's brands, and there's financial institutions. And at a macro level, if you think about the way that our economy, our financial system works, certainly on the consumer side, those are the three parties involved in any transaction. And so on the consumer side, the problem we solve ultimately is this almost like an existential guilt, anxiety, if you will, that currently when you make a purchase online, even in person, in today's digital commerce world, your money sort of just goes into the ether and you don't really know what happens to it, how it's supporting or not things that you care about. So as an individual, we enable you to actually track what your money's doing out in the world. Now for brands, increasingly, especially in Gen Z, the way to create loyalty and trust is around honesty, transparency, showing your potential customers exactly what you care about as a brand. And for the younger audience, they understand that like companies aren't going to be perfect. It's really impossible. And so what we're trying to create a data platform where you can sort of through a third-party Karma Wallet, instead of putting things on your own marketing channels where people are worried about greenwashing, they work with us to show their values transparently, ethically, honestly to the consumer. Now, on the financial institution side, the big problem for financial companies is that it's really expensive to acquire new customers, especially younger customers. And it's hard to keep them loyal because all these digital banking apps, it's pretty easy to switch. There's always new offers and interest rates. And so what we've realized in talking to financial companies is that the younger generation is looking for something more. Millennials were really attracted to all the rewards and experiences and points and loyalty programs. And certainly those are important. But Gen Z wants to know that their money is actually making a difference in addition to growing their own wealth. So with financial companies, we help them attract, retain some of the younger consumers.
Okay. So then would those be your main verticals that you guys like to go for then? Or is there another ICP for you guys there?
Exactly. Yeah, those are pretty much the three stakeholders in the community and the ecosystem that we're building.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. And well, you guys did just acquire one of your own, right? A digital card, is that correct?
Yeah, so we just acquired an e-commerce marketplace, and it only has ethical, sustainable, vetted brands. And so really we wanted to offer, our financial products give you a sense of how you're doing, but we wanted to create an easy space for you to go make purchases that are in line with your values. And when you are a Karma Wallet member, which does cost $40 a year. You have your debit card, your app, but now you can actually go to this marketplace and get 10% off all your purchases and free shipping.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. All right, awesome. Great, great. So then how would somebody usually then find out about Karma Wallet? Is there a top client acquisition channel for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. On the consumer side, naturally, there's some paid ads we do. We work with creators. There's a big following in both sustainability and personal finance space through social media. And then we also create, a bunch of written content. Our data platform itself is a way that people find out about us. So currently, say a little bit of paid social, paid influencers, but a lot of just organic word of mouth. On the brand side, that's really sort of a classic inside sales outbound strategy, if you will. We've got a partnerships team that reaches out to brands that we know have ethical and sustainable values and invite them to join the data platform, cash back on our financial products, and the marketplace. And then on the financial side, it's sort of similar. We are adding folks to our advisory board that are well connected with financial institutions. And so certainly on that side, I would say it's more of a relationship driven business.
Quite interesting. So, and so that way our listeners who are tuned in then could go ahead and visit you. They could always check you guys out at karmawallet.io. What role does a website then play for client acquisition?
A good question. I think the way we think about it, a website is really about earning trust. There's about Karma Wallet, they show up on the website. Obviously, they in some manner as a consumer to get the card, as a brand to join our community we call the Karma Collective, as a financial company to integrate API to offer our data through their digital banking services. But I think a lot of us are sort of desensitized to websites, and so we think of it as we offer transparent data. We have pages that clearly show you what we're doing. And if we believe that if that aligns with your values as a consumer, as a brand, as a financial company, you'll reach out to us and we'll have a conversation. I think we, instead of trying to convert, purchases directly on the website, we view it as building trust, building relationships that'll convert eventually to customers.
Okay, all right. And so then is there any tips or tools or methods that you would recommend to our listeners as far as some website lead generation?
It's a good question. I don't know about tools specifically for lead generation. I'll say broadly, I think the gated content is, again, I think a lot of us in the B2B world as well as consumers are somewhat desensitized or maybe averse to it at this point. Is you have to download a document, you have to put in your email, and then you get a bunch of emails that maybe you didn't want. So I would say, again, our thought is provide as much free data and content as you can, trust, and then in a sense, the lead generation problem will solve itself. In particular, sort of the tools we use, I don't have the clearest insight into those, and I'm sure I think what Pathmonk does is, I'm sure there are great tools out there, but that's sort of how we think about lead generation.
Definitely. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and to our listeners. And well, let's switch gears a little bit, Kedar, and let's talk about you as a leader, you being the co-founder there for Karma Wallet. What are some key tasks you'd like to focus on your day-to-day work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think as a co-founder and a leader, it's very easy to be pulled and stretched in a lot of different directions. And I've certainly fallen prey to that a lot, and I still do sometimes. I think it's really important to have multiple co-founders because everyone brings their own unique skill set. And I've learned that my skill set is really around storytelling, whether that's the consumers, our internal team, our brand stakeholders, our financial institutions, really painting the picture of the vision of what we're building. I think we have an incredible team that I couldn't have built this product without them. I have some skills as a data scientist, but certainly not a software engineer, not a marketer by trade. So as a leader, I try to do my best to remember that we've got an incredible team that is great at what they do. And my particular role oftentimes is just sort of pointing the ship in the right direction.
Awesome. Great to hear that from a great leader. Thank you so much for that. So then, I mean, like you mentioned, right, you're a leader, but is there a channel that you like to go with in order to stay up to date with all the trends in the marketing world? Is there a preferred one for you, Kedar?
That is a great question. And I think maybe this is a little bit against the norm, if you will. Certainly I'm on LinkedIn, and I see sort of network updates there. I follow a couple newsletters, but honestly, I would say there's increasingly so much noise on sort of social digital channels, and it's really hard to parse the signal from your personal life and your professional life. So increasingly, the two things. One is, right, like as a human, as a consumer, I'm buying products, I'm going out and having different experiences. So I like to use that to sort of look inwards about what are the problems that I'm experiencing. And then I go find, ideally credible sort of journalism that aligns with the problems that I'm noticing in my own life. And then the second piece is, just talking to folks in my network. I think as we build the company, we have, again, our internal team, our consumer customers, brands, financial companies, our advisors, and they're all doing the same thing, right? They're living their lives professionally and personally, identifying problems, identifying opportunities. And so relying on my network, I would say, is increasingly something that I do.
All right, awesome. Great to hear that from you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And well, let's jump into our next section then here, Kedar, which is our rapid fire question rounds. Are you ready for them?
Find out.
All right, perfect. First off, then, Kedar, what is the last book that you read?
Yeah. The last book I read I think it's called Be Like Water. It's a Bruce Lee biography written by his daughter.
All right, interesting read there for our listeners. Next up then is, if there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be that one thing that you want to have fixed for your role as a marketer today?
It's a good question. If there are no boundaries for technology, I think I would want to, there's a lot of talk about social listening, but that's just sort of online, right? The content that people produce. And oftentimes online content, people just paint the best picture of themselves. And maybe this is possible through something like Google Glass or Apple Vision eventually, but actually having people opt into sharing what they actually talk about with people in their lives could give a really interesting lens into the actual problems people care about, the actual things they talk about, instead of just something they like or share on social media.
All right, great to hear that. Next then is, if there's one repetitive task that you could automate, what would that be?
Oof. I mean, like doing the dishes, doing laundry, but I'm assuming you're talking professionally. I think it's really hard to stay on top of emails and manage relationships. Um, Remembering when is the right time to reach out, keep a relationship warm. This is an issue personally, but also professionally.
All right, interesting. I like that. And well, lastly then is, I mean, you have the experience, no doubting that, but what would be that one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer?
Yeah, again, not a marketer by trade. However, the piece of advice I would probably be like, the words you use really matter. Each word, each phrase engenders a different feeling and emotion inside of people. And ultimately, as humans, we make purchasing decisions, make all decisions really based on some logic, but a lot of emotion. And each person has this, vast collection of different things they feel in their life and their day-to-day. And we have a pretty limited subset of language, at least the English language, to describe that. And so, increasingly I have an interest in sort of linguistics and why certain words make you feel a different way.
Great, thank you so much, for that advice. And well, we are coming to the end of our show today here, Kedar, but before we do end, I do want to give you the last word. Say someone forgets everything about the interview today. What is that one thing they should remember about Karma Wallet?
They should remember that every action you take, whether it's purchasing or not, creates some sort of karma in the world. And I'm not a particularly religious person, but I think it's an easy concept to understand. It's sort of what you put out there will come back around. Part of the reason there's a boomerang in our logo. So whether it's through opening a Karma wallet and see how your purchasing decisions influence the world, or just having some awareness about that, I think is a good thing for everyone to think about.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much for that. And well, to our listeners, you could always check them out at karmawallet.io, your membership to be a better future. Kedar, thank you so much for being on with us today. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm looking forward to our next episode at Pathpunk Presents. Thanks a lot, Kedar.
Thanks.